I'm a firm believer in networking and networking your way into relationships and companies, and rather than just blindly applying and being able to show your value and have those conversations ahead of time. You need to make your efforts and your impact visible. Don't assume that people will notice your hard work, because they often don't. You may think that people will notice that you've gone above and beyond. It's your job to make them notice. It's your job to make people understand the value that you bring. It's not arrogant. It's advocacy for yourself. Don't take it for granted that people will see your hard work. For better or for worse, I overshare by design. I think there's this old myth that if you hoard information, you become indispensable to a company. But that mindset ends up isolating teams. It slows progress, and it just keeps people in their own silos, and customers feel that. I would give customer success, customer advocacy, the biggest seat at the table, because we are the folks at the company who speak to customers the most.
Hello again, it's Maria, and you're listening to the Women in Customer Success podcast. It's a new day today, new episode with a wonderful lady that I'm really excited to introduce to all of you. She's Linda Lipovetsky, Senior Customer Advocacy Manager at Unqork. She's based in New York, and I really can't wait for this conversation because she is one of the loveliest ladies in customer success out there. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I told to everybody already you're calling from New York. Now tell us, would you consider yourself being an introvert or extrovert?
I'm definitely an introvert.
Would 16-year-old Linda be surprised to find you in this current position?
Not at all. Every role I've ever had, starting babysitting, mother's helper at 10, has always been helping others. It's always been my calling. I think my family thought I would be a teacher. So I don't think customer advocacy, customer success is that far off. We are educating our clients. We are educating our internal teams. And it's always about helping and advocating for others. So I don't think that I would be surprised at 16 to find myself in a role like this.
Wonderful. And just tell me, out of curiosity, on these rapid fire questions, if you had to completely change your career tomorrow, what would you do?
It might surprise you, but if money was no object, and if I could change my career, I would be a lactation consultant.
Lactation consultant, that is very, very cool. What was your experience on it so far?
When my son was born, it was my first interaction with a lactation consultant, and it was so meaningful for me, and she was such an advocate for me and so supportive, and really transitioned the way I was able to take care of my son, that it just resonated with me. And it's always been something that I thought of my maybe post-career, maybe in retirement, I will find a way to work with La Leche League and help other women. It's something that I think women feel should be supernatural, and there is a skill to it. There is nuance to it, and having somebody who can help you can take away a lot of the stress that goes along with it, especially right after giving birth. And when things don't happen right away, it can feel stressful. It can feel like a failure. It can feel disappointing. And so when you have a coach who can help you understand the nuances and the technique, it can make all the difference in the world.
I love how you're talking about it. And it does sound how it was incredibly meaningful for you in your life. My wish for you, maybe it's part of this conversation, is also that you do make it happen somehow, even if not to wait until retirement. You never know what kind of opportunities may open on, not say weekends, but you never know. So I'm just going to leave it out there. It is a beautiful, beautiful desire for like additional career. I mean, we don't have to talk about career.
Right.
Everything we do is like part of who we are, and part of career. But no, this is wonderful. And now I really need to ask how in your life happened so that you entered career in customer success. What was the journey?
My journey has taken me many directions, ups and downs, sideways, diagonals. I started my career in startups working in sales. I was very good in sales, but it wasn't my passion. There was just a part of it that didn't really resonate with me. And so I moved over to the post-sale team. And at the time, customer success really wasn't a term. It was more just account management. And that immediately clicked. It was helping, it was implementation, it was getting them from, okay, they signed. So now we closed point A, but now we were at point B and we needed to get to where we needed to go. And being part of that journey and finding the aha moments and finding the connection and building the relationship and watching them succeed, and my having a part in making that just a little bit easier for them was the click that I needed. And so everything from there, whether I was in startups, whether I went into finance and I was working as a client director in wealth management and just helping clients reach their financial goals and making that process, which can be tedious, it can be confusing, it can be regulatory, and you can make a lot of mistakes very easily. So having that ability to just make clients' lives a little bit easier was always the best part of my job. And then during COVID, I realized that wealth management really wasn't the industry that I saw the rest of my career. And I wanted to go back to my roots in a startup. And I found Unqork through a variety of channels, but really through a group that featured women in various interviews. And I would follow all of those groups and I would do my research. And that's how I would look for what companies might resonate. And Unqork was one that just hit every mark. And so I started my journey to get into Unqork any way I could.
Can you tell me more about that journey? Because I do remember you have quite a story about how you got to the company, how you got into that position. I think it's something that everybody can learn something from. You tell us. I'm not going to give any spoilers.
So during COVID, when we were all staring at our four walls, I would join every webinar, every activity that was going on remotely. And Unqork had a hackathon for folks to join and learn their application and learn their platform. And it was something that was stimulating for my brain, but also something I could do with my son, who was 10 at the time. And we really got our hands dirty in the application, in the platform. And I loved it. And I could see the real world application for this. I could see how it would have impacted my job at the time. There were so many things that I could envision, right? My brain was just going off in every which way. And I said, I really want to be a part of this. So we participated in the hackathon. Both I did too, and then my son actually built an application on the platform, which was really cool to see. And so I applied. My first interview didn't work out as well. I mean, it was a great conversation, but it just didn't go anywhere. And I decided there was this passion burning in me, and I said, I'm not going to stop. So I started building relationships. I would connect with different folks on the leadership team, different folks in their customer success leadership. And eventually I mustered up every ounce of courage that I possibly could find in the universe. And I sent a message on LinkedIn to the CEO, Gary, and Alex at the time, who was our CMO, pitching myself. I sent a note and I explained my skills and the value that I felt I would bring to the team. And I prayed and I waited for a response. Definitely the boldest thing I've ever done in my career, but I also had nothing to lose. So they responded. We continued the conversation, and it took some time, and an extremely strong advocate, Eric, who was one of the leaders on CS at the time, who I had built a relationship with, who advocated for me and really, made a lot of effort with the team for me, and it worked. 3 years later, I'm still here, and I'm grateful that I bet on myself.
Wow, those are so many awesome ways of getting into the company. Tell me more. When you say you were building relationships, was it just reaching out to people or on LinkedIn and trying to, and starting conversations, starting some phone calls? Was it all online? Did you have anything in person? I mean, it's a remarkable story and just remarkable way of how you just went for it. How everybody, if you want to work for that particular company, like do that. This is such a great playbook. Tell me more. So it worked, obviously. What were some of those steps in relationship building? Like what helped?
So one of my friends and I go back and forth. She's very I'm a firm believer in networking and networking your way into relationships and companies, and rather than just blindly applying, which of course does work. But I think networking and being able to show your value and have those conversations ahead of time. And so we would go back and forth on whether or not this would work. And she was doubtful, and she just kept trying to apply to other places for me. And that worked. In the interim, she did apply to another company on my behalf, and it did work, and I did start there, but I was still on my journey to work for Unqork. And I would say it was participating in every webinar that they were hosting, and during COVID, they were hosting a lot. I would network on LinkedIn, whether it was private messages or whether it was reacting to posts that folks in the company were sharing my opinion, sharing conflicting or agreeing opinions, right? Just kind of having that dialogue. There wasn't too many in-person opportunity during the time, right, because of COVID, but I think it also allowed more opportunity to connect. People were craving connection, whereas I think pre-COVID access to people was a little bit more gated, and interaction or willingness to maybe respond or interact was a little more challenging because our lives were going 1,000 miles a minute. And during COVID, people were able to slow down. And so it all opened up opportunities for me to cultivate my networking skills, and also to reach out to people that I maybe wouldn't have had the courage to in the past.
Oh my gosh, wonderful story. For every hiring manager, or actually, I would say for everybody listening, if you are passionate about working for a particular company, this is the playbook to follow. Linda, I really love how you started saying like you've been part of their webinars, of the online conversation. So just imagine if you're hiring tomorrow and you get a stack of hundreds of applications and you're just going through CVs and they all look alike anyway. It's ChatGPT, like it's all similar. And then you come across a name, like a message who tells you, wow, I love what you're doing. I want to work for you. This is what I can bring to the table. Then you see the same name being part and already participating in your online community. And you can see that passion being alive, not only on a paper in the message, oh, I'm interested in working with you. So of course that if you were that hiring manager, you would want to have a conversation with that person. So thanks for giving us these beautiful playbooks into getting yourself a job and an interview in a company that you're really passionate about. I am a huge believer as well that something like that can work. Building relationship, building your network, and just being genuinely passionate about it. Not even doing it for the sake of then asking later on. But it seems that it just naturally happened to you that you recognize that there is, good passion and good synergy.
Yeah.
I love that entering into the company. But I wonder from your end, what has been one main lesson that you taught in your career so far that you think everybody should learn at some point in their lives?
You need to make your efforts and your impact visible. Don't assume that people will notice your hard work, because they often don't. They're busy with their own work. And sometimes the results are what is noticed, but the work and the effort and all the extra steps that need to happen in order to make those results happen are often behind the scenes, and You may think that people will notice that you've gone above and beyond. It's your job to make them notice. It's your job to make people understand the value that you bring. It's not arrogant. It's advocacy for yourself. And you do that by documenting, emailing, posting, promoting, speaking up in the right rooms, finding that courage, because nobody will do it for you. You may think, oh, my boss will know what I'm doing. They may just expect it. So if you don't articulate and outline what you've done to make those things happen, that's a lesson I think everybody should learn. That don't take it for granted that people will see your hard work.
It's, I believe, one of the greatest lessons we all can learn for our careers and for our career growth. I was just reflecting as you were talking how, as a leader of a team, how much I don't know about what people are doing, even when you have data available, right? Even when you think everybody are doing what they're expected to do, that's not the case. Leaders really don't have exact visibility into what people are doing. Could be for better or for worse. So it is amazing if you are having your little process or your ways of showcasing your work, because as you said, no one else will do it for you. No one else will advocate for you in the way that you should do it for yourself. Thanks for giving us that lesson.
Yeah. And I finished it with a little tip that I do, because we do, obviously, I'm sure most companies, right, you have semi-annual or annual performance reviews, and it's often challenging my memory is not super great these days to remember everything that I've done. So throughout the year, when I have something that I want to make a note of, I will just shoot myself a small email and I keep it in a little box. Like I made a folder in my email with just things that I want to remember. So when it comes time to my reviews or things that I want to speak about, I can just pull up that email draft or that email that I sent myself with the details of what I've done. So it's an easy way to remember. And it's a great tool. You don't have to go back and search through a million emails. You have one folder with all the things that you want to, identify and call out.
Yeah, that's really a great example of how to keep track of what you're doing. I remember sometimes with my team, I would also do weekly updates. Just imagine opening a document and then on Friday you note a few things of what happened well with customers, what were some of successes, what is some need as well, and what did you do well. And then from week to month to quarter, you do have a nice repository of things that you've been working on, because as you said, unless you start looking into your calendar, trying to remember what happened with each customer each week, you forget. So you have to keep track on it.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by Deploy Flow, your partner for digital transformation. Do you need to build an MVP fast? Whether it's a new product, APIs, configuration for your CRMs, or modernizing your cloud apps, P-Suite gives you a team, senior squad of full-stack engineers who plug into your team and hit the ground running. Designed for founders and CTOs who want to move fast, with AI-powered tools and clear, sprint-based outcomes. No more long-term lock-ins, so if a sprint doesn't deliver, you can just walk away. For a cost and squad estimate, head over to deployflow.co/P-suite and take the quick quiz. deployflow.co. Okay, Linda, as you have been now in customer experience side for a while, and currently I do believe you're working a lot on the side of advocating for customers, I wonder, what has been your favorite framework or blueprint that you always apply in your role?
For better or for worse, radical oversharing. I overshare by design, whether it's having long-winded answers and telling a lot. But I think there's this old myth that if you hoard information, you become indispensable to a company. But that mindset ends up isolating teams. It slows progress and it just keeps people in their own silos, and customers feel that. So I think that the way that I overshare with clients, I overshare internally with stakeholders and other teams. I bombard them sometimes with information, but I think it's how you can make more informed decisions, have real growth, and being, frankly, unapologetically transparent, right? Here's the blunt truth, whether it's positive, maybe it's a little bit of negative, but within the bounds of confidentiality, right? Being unapologetically transparent with customers about what's going on. And this was the part of sales that I couldn't connect with these carefully massaged communications. Just being bluntly honest, I think clients appreciate not having to do that dance of the back and forth to get an answer. And it's really allowed me to quickly build better relationships.
I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of the customers. How amazing it would be if everybody would be transparent when you say for better or for worse, right? If I know today, no, these XYZ things that you're looking for are not available in the product or are not going to be available for another year, or anything that I'm asking, if you tell me transparently, it's a no, bad news, or this is how it can work, how much more willing would I be to have a relationship with you, to buy from you, to be an advocate for you and for your company? Life would have been so much easier for so many of our customers if everybody would adopt that mindset of transparency. It's nothing personal, right? It's like good and bad news. It's reality, right? It's just so much easier to work properly with real facts rather than continuously trying to, unpack layers of onions and layers of communication to try to figure out what's actually happening. You just remove all of that backwards and forwards, transparently say what it is,
And move on,
you're,
right?
and
They're
move on.
they're being
Easier.
sold every day, right? They're being sold from a lot of vendors all day, every day. Procurement is busy. They just want to get it done. And you want to try to make it as easy for them as possible. It always falls into that mentality that I have. How can I make things just a little bit easier for you? And if I can remove that dance and the back and forth and just give you the information as I have it, as accurate as I have it at the moment, then we can all just take that and make a plan to move forward.
And it seems so simple. Yet, on another hand, I remember how many times I had conversations with CSMs who were hesitating to deliver, so-called bad news, especially if it happens related to the product and customers' expectations. But when you imagine customer just needs truth so they can manage expectations of their own teams and their own stakeholders and company, again, there is nothing personal that somebody will feel bad about it or people will be disappointed. If you remove those emotions, people just need to know the truth so that they can mitigate their own internal risks, so that they can plan, so that they can seem professional in the eyes of their management, of their company. That's why that truth, straightforward, is just so important rather than trying to mask when things are not going well.
Right. Agreed.
I love the radical transparency. That's how you call it. Now, if we go even a step further and imagine you were a CEO of a company today, I wonder what would be the untouchable customer success practice that you would straight away stop doing, and what would you start doing instead? Anything that annoys you in particular in customer success? That's another side of asking the same question.
That's a great question. I would eliminate this obsession with reactive success metrics like CSATs and NPS. I think those have too much weight on them as like the sole indicators of success or performance. I think instead I would build a system that measures customer trust, their adoption health, their internal influence. Success isn't really a score. And oftentimes folks who are filling out the NPS score aren't the ones who are the decision makers. So it's skewed any way you look at it. We really need to measure what's actually driving retention and loyalty. And I would also give customer success, customer advocacy the biggest seat at the table because we are the folks at the company who speak to customers the most, right? Once go-to-market or sales closes, right, they could obviously continue to have a relationship with clients, but it's in a different function. And it's not as day-to-day as customer success is. So we hear from the hands-on keyboard teams, we hear from the people using, building, what's going on. And oftentimes we're also the ones communicating up to their leadership in a lot of ways because the folks that we speak to may not have that contact or connection. So I would give customer success a much bigger seat at the table for product direction, for policy, for how we evaluate sentiment across customers and what's working and what's not working, and not rely just on CSAT or NPS or things like that.
Oh gosh, I love everything what you said about it. How, as a CEO, you would change it. You would give CS so much bigger seat at the table, which is such a good message to CS leaders. Try to open up those conversations and that seat at the table for yourself, because you are bringing so much value to product team and other teams, especially to the CEO and C level, by providing your input about the customers and growing the revenue. So even if you don't have a CEO who would do it immediately, try to do whatever you can to get that seat at the table and have more influence internally, because very often, I don't know how you feel about it, but when I speak with leaders, they seem to be pulled into the big table when there is a problem with customer, when there are escalations, and then everybody are sitting at a big table. And of course, customer success has a big decision-making power, or at least they can influence lots of the conversation. Okay, great. But why wait for it? Let's open up those conversations and showcase the influence during the good times as well, continuously, so that we would be taken even more seriously, simply because we do have a unique position and unique insights into the customers that most of other departments never have in the company.
Right.
That's such a good point that you made. I do have a question. Instead of CSATs and NPS, actually, why do you think some companies and leaders are so drawn to those type of metrics? Even though sometimes it feels, of course, NPS is such a not great metric to measure still in these days and age. It is so reactive, actually, so retrograde. It measures just a point in time. Why do you think so many companies still kind of cling to it?
We've been conditioned to believe that is the indicator. I think it's just a matter of routine, condition. It's what we're used to. I think there's definitely something better on the market, but it hasn't gained the popularity or the familiarity that NPS and CSAT have. That was marketed really, really well. So it's become popular in companies, and it's sort of a staple of how a lot of leaders are used to measuring. So but we have to learn something new, and we have to find what the right tool is. And I don't know what that is just yet, but I would definitely try to find something else on the market if I had the decision-making power.
Every time when I'm thinking about CSAT or NPS, don't get me wrong, but in my head, I always have the association of my kids going through the airport and just pressing all the random buttons on those, happy or not type of, what is that
Yeah.
even? How happy you are with the service today at the airport. Like, of course, they're
Right.
just pressing any sorts of button without even checking. I am not saying that's what people are doing on CSAT and NPS, but very often it feels equally random, because what do you get out of it? How
Right.
did somebody feel in that particular moment? Anyway, that's completely another conversation for another time. But yeah, I wish that those metrics would give us a bit more accurate data. However, Linda, there is one thing that I really wanted to touch upon in this conversation just before we press the record button. we spoke a bit about working remotely and how it is now so normal that we have been remote for years, especially in companies, like yours, like mine, when we don't have to go to the office, not often. What are some things that you are doing to get you kind of a bit more energy and something different, some novelty, that it's not always just being at home, working remotely, working outside of all the other teams?
Well, I will say working remotely has been a game changer across the board, right? I love working from home. I get to save the commuting time. So I can start earlier, I can work a little bit later. I have a little bit more flexibility throughout the day. But as a mom, as a single mom, when I was going to the city 5 days a week, I missed everything. I wasn't able to be at anything because if I needed to be at school for a midday play, I had to take the whole day off. And I didn't have that flexibility. I couldn't afford to take random days off. I needed to save them for sick days or emergencies. So I was really stingy and sparingly using my vacation days. And I had to miss everything. Thankfully, I have amazing parents who were able to step in. And so my son has these memories of his grandparents being at everything. So it's a different kind of memory. But for me, it's a hole in my heart that I had to miss so much. And so being home has given me more energy. I can be present for my son in everything that he's doing without skipping a beat with work. And I can log on at 4 a.m. for customers when I need to, and I do that very often. And I don't mind it. It's I have amazing customers, so being able to join those calls is, I feel, a privilege that I can be there. But I am a little bit of a hermit. Being at home now, it's harder to get motivated, I think, to get up and leave and do certain things. So I'm part of, many networking groups. I try to go to many events to network with like-minded people, find interests that are in common, whether it's work related or personal related, that, hobbies that I have or want to explore. So I find that joining a lot of groups keeps me active and cultivating my friendships. It's nice that I have a lot of friends also locally who work from home. So we can sort of figure out where we can fit in, maybe a quick coffee or even work side by side at a coffee shop. Even if we're not talking, we're working, but it's a little bit of a social experiment there too.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's so valuable just to have somebody sometimes close to you. I thought that since I've been working at home, that my energy level goes really lower when I have to interact with people in person. And it's so weird because I have always been an extrovert. I would really get the energy out from it. But it seems that after, a little bit of chit chat and conversation, after an hour or so, I feel, okay, that's it. It's like almost as I was putting lots of effort to have that in-person conversation. And now I need to go back to the solitude, which is not always, equal to remote work. Doesn't mean you're always by yourself. But I just wonder, do you feel that you have to almost work on some social skills or communication skills all over again, or you don't see the difference?
Well, I'm an introvert, so that's always been something I've had to, motivate myself and energize myself before going out. I find that I can really tell now when I make plans who energizes me and who doesn't. So my best friend lives across the street. I don't have to energize myself, right? I know that she understands me. She knows my mentality. If I need to just sit next to her on the couch and scroll on my phone and not talk, that's a great outing for us, right? We're both introverts. And for us, like, that could be the best event of the day. But I can find like which events energize me. But yes, I definitely find that my social battery drains much faster than it used to. And I have to sometimes think about in advance, what would I talk about? What kind of topics? What's a safe topic to talk about? What's an interesting topic to talk about? am I in the mood to get into? And I know that there are folks that I can talk about politics with, and there are folks that I can't talk about politics with. And I know there are friends of mine who we read the same articles and listen to the same podcasts. So I know that those are topics that I can speak about, but there are other conversations or other folks or other events that I have to really think in advance. What will I talk about? Because I'm so nervous socially that I don't have that small talk skill anymore to just banter off the cuff, where I used to have that because you needed to. And I've definitely lost that a bit.
Interesting. Yeah, small talk skills. I think I was never much for it. And especially when you're remotely working, you jump on a call and you kind of go straight in, right? Everybody else back to back, you don't need it. I get it. That's really interesting one. Okay, Linda, I wanted to wrap up with going back to some of your career lessons. You taught us so much, and I so appreciate you taking us through the process of you landing kind of the job in a dream company. I wonder, from everything that you have learned in your career and all the experiences, if you would be starting your career now, or if you would be building it all again, is there anything that you would do differently, and why?
I'd definitely invest more time in technology, not just using the tools. I went to school and I took a lot of coding classes and IT classes, and I think I passed by the skin of my teeth. I think I would have really invested learning, diving in, going, deep, peeling away at the layers and understanding why they matter and how they work and what the impact is, and staying close to it over the years, staying close to how things have evolved. I think everything that I've learned in my degree, it's not obsolete, but it's certainly not as relevant today as it was when I was studying it. But I think if I had stayed that track and stayed close to technology, it would have been a huge, or closer to technology than I am, it would have been a huge advantage in my role. I am trying to learn more as I go now, but it's, harder to teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. But I'm trying. I have no regret. Every role that I've had has taught me incredibly valuable lessons, for better or for worse, more good than bad. But I definitely wish that I had paid more attention and stayed closer to technology.
And that's such wonderful advice, because no matter how much we know, there will be constant new changes and new developments in technology. And just even thinking, where are we 10 years from now?
Right.
Wow, of course we can't even imagine, but being there, following trends, trying to get the grips of something new like AI, which is currently really trendy, to whatever next thing comes next year. That's really a valuable advice. Linda, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for giving us so much nuggets of wisdom. That's how I would call it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate you taking time to learn something new and propel your career in customer success and beyond. If you like this episode, share it with your colleague, with your team member, with someone you know needs to hear it today. We appreciate your support, so please follow us and subscribe to our channels so many more women can hear about this.